Today we need to get into apparently V hurting a fan and why people are saying this. We also need to get into V and Jisoo being seen together and why people believe that it's a date. And then apparently this fan kept following V, and these are all individual stories. These are not all together. So hey Dumplings, Dave decide, hate it or not, make sure to subscribe with the notification bell on. Make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon with some free content on Saturdays now. Let's go. This video recently came out and I felt like it did get some attention. Like if you look at some of their tweets, it went viral, but I feel like it didn't get any media attention, or at least yet. So I'm very excited to talk about it, and I'm very excited to report on it because I feel like it's a little bit underrated. It does irk me how I feel like since the members have gone to the military, a lot of the news sites have felt the need to take their hands off BTS and not report as much, when in reality there's still a lot going on and there's still things that should be reported on. Everyone got interested when Jin went to the military, and there was this huge hype and conversation around BTS going to the military. Almost every move that Jin made in the military was documented, and while there's pros and cons to doing that, because obviously it's not great to feel like someone is recording you in the military, my personal opinion is that that's all done with permission. But since the other members enlisted, I've seen a lot less of this conversation going around. And I mean, I rarely ever hear what's going on with RM. What is Suga doing? I want to know. Now recently this was interesting because there was a video that came out where it appeared like V was outside of a concert, and he was the security of the concert. And I assume this because this is not unusual for part of the service. That they have to do is to be more of a public servant, or anywhere with a big crowd, or whatever it is. And they have to kind of guard and help out. And for soldiers or anyone in the military to do this, not rare. It could have been a festival, it could have been a lot of things. There really isn't much context in the video, and as I said, it hasn't been widely reported yet, so not a lot of information is available. Maybe this is why it hasn't really been reported on, because there isn't that much information on it. But V was standing outside, and I think this woman came over and said that, "Are you V?" or "Who are you?" or something along those lines. He answered that he was V of BTS, and that was enough. He didn't really need to say more than that, and everyone was going to know who he was. The woman was of course very excited and was so happy to meet him. V then said that he had to go and left, and there were some people who were not happy about this. And I'm not sure if some of those people were unhappy because they were just jealous, or if they were unhappy because of an actual reason. People were saying that it felt like he was being followed, or even how to get to this clip would obviously be someone needing to have followed him, because this clip happened where someone must have known that he was going to be there, and then it had to have happened where someone was watching him in order to get that interaction. However, you don't know who leaked that, whether that was another security guard that was with him, because I don't even know how a celebrity security guard even works. Like, does a celebrity that is a security guard need another security guard with them, or if it just was a fan that happened to be there and whipped out their phone and had no intention of following V or really tracking him down. People online like to assume the negative, and if the celebrity themselves or no one is really making a complaint, we can either assume that it's not that big of a deal or it really didn't happen. Now this is an example of obviously V being one of the kindest souls ever. To talk to someone, to really be kind to them, to acknowledge them, and really just have a moment with them, even if they weren't a fan or they were just a person who maybe just casually heard of V. He doesn't have to acknowledge anyone, and he definitely doesn't have to be nice to any specific person. In my personal opinion, if you were to be somewhat mean to someone, I would say that that may even be a little warranted, because sometimes people are a little obnoxious. Not in this case, of course. Now there was a viral clip that I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure if it went viral because people agree, although I'm sure there are some random people that agree, or if it was viral because it was just untrue and people were arguing it. But also another reason to not argue something, right? Because if it goes viral, then there's going to be someone who's going to believe it or think it's true. However, there was this post that was basically saying that V is one of the rudest celebrities ever, and that he's narcissistic and all that stuff, because he doesn't wave to the people who wave to him. Now it depends on the type of person that obviously waves at him. He has waved at other people. There are many clips and moments in which you can find that he clearly says hi back to whoever says hi to him. However, there are plenty of clips in which he might act a little bit rude or whatever it is, because he doesn't feel comfortable, and that comes across as rude. Example, there was a moment a long time ago, I think this was when Celine rented out the private jet for Bogum, Lisa, and him, and when he left, there were paparazzis and all that stuff that were waiting for him at the airport. Of course, Lisa and Bogum waved at everyone there, but V didn't. People took this very personally because they were saying that he was being really rude and that everyone else waved. Why didn't he? Now, thankfully, he did address this and he did talk about it, to which he wanted to make sure that it was addressed and that people weren't just going to misconstrue. He mentioned that yes, he didn't wave, but the only reason why he did that was because he didn't feel safe. He felt like people were getting way too rowdy. After all, he was the last person to come out, so people were kind of getting louder and louder the more time passed by. And if memory serves me correctly, I believe it was also raining. So he just wanted to kind of leave quickly as fast as he could so that everyone would leave and that people would be safe. Because the last thing he would want is someone to stand there waiting for him and then they get ammonia or something. And what sucks about this is that he ends up getting the blame for it. You would hope that someone who decides to stay or see you in person will understand that if it gets dangerous that they need to leave. You would hope that. However, that's not always true and that's not always what people do. And they sometimes wait even longer even though it gets more dangerous because they still want to be there. Or maybe even that they're not realizing how dangerous it is. And for something like the rain, which is not the most dangerous thing in the world, but people will literally stay out there until they get sick or wait for him. And even if they just end up with a slight cold, how would you feel if you knew that you would probably give people a sickness if you did this thing and you did it anyway? Other things are if you know that a stalker has been following you for like 2 hours, why are you going to reward them? They're looking for a high. They're looking for any sort of interaction. And of course, you don't want to give it to them because now they're going to be more incentivized to do it again and to do that dangerous thing again and maybe hurt other people. And of course, as I said, this shouldn't be his responsibility. But he knows that it is because people are going to blame him for it and that he needs to be the example. And a lot of people get upset when celebrities, especially Korean celebrities, acknowledge that they're famous. Like the moment the members start acknowledging that they were famous and not normal people anymore was like the moment half their community turned on them. The moment they acknowledge that they probably have sex and they probably want to date or do normal people who turn famous things that they would do, they start getting this huge backlash. But then at the same time, they're not supposed to know that. They're not supposed to know that they're famous or have responsibility or any of that sort of stuff. But at the same time, they have to have responsibility because they don't want to hurt people. Like, make that make sense. It doesn't. There were also some clips that were coming out that people were very excited to talk about, like not good or bad. People were very interested in this idea that V and Jisoo were apparently seen together. There was this event called FRIEZE. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. This event happened a long time ago and people didn't really think much of it at all. However, something has come up that has gotten people talking about this event again. Apparently 2 people were spotted together, like 2 idols that were spotted together at this event were now just officially announced to be dating. This is alleged. Now, if you are unaware of what this event is, now from what I had seen from the event, the whole event wasn't documented publicly. I don't think it was a dinner and I think they were celebrating something. And it was basically these 2 long tables in which everyone sat together at. So people were seated together. I think they were seated like together and they had assigned seats because I do remember that Lisa and Jisoo were there, but they weren't sitting in the same area even. So I'm wondering if that was because they weren't able to pick their own seats. Like, why wouldn't they sit together, right? Now, we could see that those 2 people that were spotted together, that were announced to be dating, people were saying that since they were dating, other people must have been also dating as well. Like, everyone must have been assigned seated next to their lover. There was also a clip of Lisa and apparently someone that she's dating now that's a part of royalty or something, I don't freaking know. And even though that hasn't been officially confirmed, fans think that those 2 are dating as well. So people were saying that since we spot V and Jisoo together and also openly having a conversation and talking to each other, that they must be in a relationship as well. All of this, and I mean all of this, is speculation and there's no evidence into any of this. So the fact that this is something that people are talking about and actually believing is absolutely crazy to me. They can be friends and people could have been seated next to their other friends. Seating arrangements, especially for really formal events where it's just all celebrities that are there, are heavily thought about and they don't like to typically put people who don't know each other next to each other. V and Jisoo have worked together before, so if they were thinking of who to put next to each other, they might think of putting them 2 together because they've worked together. And the same goes for other people that were sitting next to each other. There's more than one reason why people would be seated next to each other. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Link to this lovely comment right here. Love you. Bye.